was no way to get into the Mela because there were 20 million people there. There were no train reservations. You'd have to have your own helicopter. And there were no buses. It's like people were coming in, you know, lying on top of trains and stacked against the walls of trains. And his doctor had said that he couldn't fly, and the devotees didn't want him to go, but he was determined. He was going to go to Kumba Mela. Everybody told him not to, but at the last minute he made his own decisions. And so miraculously, there was one sweet Indian gentleman named Mr. Gupta who had just joined about 2 months prior. He just happened to be the chief engineer of Indian Railway. And so what he did was he added 2 cars to the trains. This is not done in India. I mean, totally unheard of. But he added a first-class car and he added a second-class car. And he, not only that, he arranged that Prabhupada's car was freshly painted and there were garlands hanging in it. And he arranged for his personal servant to go with him into the Mela, you know, to drive with him. And we had just given our money, you know, I was traveling with Kusha and her 3-year-old son, and we gave our money to Mr. Gupta. We didn't know, but we had a coupe right next to Prabhupada's. And then while we were on the train, it dawned on me, he told me he was going to take me to the Mela. And here we could, you know, it was the coupe right next, you know, his coupe with his sannyasis and brahmacharis he was traveling with, and then the next coupe. They're like little rooms in Indian trains where we could hear him talking at the stops. And sometimes we would take grapes or take mangoes or things into them. And of course the train stopped outside the Mela because the train station during Kumba Mela is a nightmare. It's just like, you know, they're usually a nightmare anyway, but they're more of a nightmare with thousands of people. And so we stopped outside Allahabad in the dark, and we got off the train, and Hansadutta's buses picked us up. And of course Prabhupada's car was there, and then we drove into the Mela in that way. And then while we were in the Mela, Prabhupada was wanting milk. There was no way to get milk. So I talked to Mr. Gupta, and Mr. Gupta arranged for a cow to be brought to our compound in the Mela so that Prabhupada could have fresh milk. Mr. Gupta was wonderful. He really arranged for everything. And then he arranged for a train to pick Prabhupada when he was ready to leave the Mela. From the Mela, he went to, I can't remember whether he went to Calcutta or Bombay. Anyway, he left the Mela. They picked him up outside this train station. In other words, they made a special stop for the train. 2 cars were put on the train from Bombay, all the way, empty cars all the way, to pick him up and then take him out of the Mela. I mean, this is just like, in India this would be considered a miracle, because, I mean, the roles of bureaucracy just to get a train ticket. If anybody's been to India, they know. But to have 2 whole cars put on just for him, you know, and because there was no other way he could travel, he couldn't fly. In New Jersey, we were sitting in the garden one day, and there was a slug. That's an ugly thing. You know what a slug is? It's an ugly thing without, like a snail without a shell. And it was crawling there right next to him, and I said, ooh, look. You know, I was a kid. And he said, he got this look of tremendous compassion on his face. And he said, chant to the poor creature. And so he had me sitting there chanting to this slug, you know. And now I still chant to slugs, because I remember Prabhupada telling me to chant to the slug, and when I chant to slugs now, or little insects or whatever, I know that this is one of his instructions, that we're given this human form of life and we can chant and they can't, but the soul can hear. The tree can hear, the bird can hear, you know, everything. And this is, we would sit outdoors and he would talk like this. I can remember once he was talking about 2 butterflies that were flying together. And he's saying, just see, there's family life also in the butterflies, you know, you know. And we were on the beach in New Jersey, and there are little ants on the beach and stuff, you know. And he was saying, they say there's no life on the moon, but here on the beach we see there's life. There's life in every part of God's creation. It's continuously seeing, constantly viewing the world through vision of Krishna Bhakti. There's no, I mean, there was never any time that he wasn't.